Would you like to state your name for us?
David Rocco.
David Rocco. And can you tell us where you grew up?
I grew up in southern Westchester County, Yonkers, and for about 10, 12 years, and then I moved to Mount Vernon, and where I finished up high school.
As you finish up high school. What is your job? What's your occupation?
I started out in the meat business with my father, who was in the meat business since he was like 14 years old, but then I had to get away from the business for health reasons, and I got into carpentry. So I worked for the New York City Housing Authority for almost 18 years. And I retired 7 years ago due to I injured my knee, so it put me on permanent disability.
All right, so how long have you lived in the Hudson River Valley?
I'm 51 years old, so as long as that's been alive.
What's your overall impression of living in Hudson Valley? What keeps you going and staying here?
It has everything. You know, it's such a beautiful area. Lakes, rivers, across the Hudson River. I've driven around the country a few times, and I couldn't think of a better place to live and die than here.
And so let me ask you a couple of questions relating to the bridge itself. What role do you feel the bridge is playing within the community and the region?
As of right now, or what it could be?
Now.
As of right now, it's still a pipe dream for a lot of people. This has been going on since 1992. This is now 2008. There was a lot of doubters out there because, like, I'm on the community outreach committee, and I get people coming up to me, "Are you guys ever going to get it done?" And I said, first of all, it's not our bridge, it's your bridge. Secondly, you know, we need more help, and right now it looks like we're on our way. So we have to make them believers.
What do you think is the biggest challenge in getting the bridge going, getting the bridge completed as a walkway?
Well, the usual answer to that one is money,
Right.
but also the cooperation between the many agencies that are involved. This is a major undertaking, and include the fact we're on a tight timeline because we want to get it open by September 2009. So that's a lot to ask for.
How long have you been involved in Walkway Over the Hudson?
I met Bill Seppi, who was the original chair of the organization, in November of 2001.
And what first inspired you to get involved in it?
Happened to be the Dutchess County office building because I lived in Dutchess County for about 18 months, and I was renewing my passport. And after I came down from the office, there was this information stand of things to do in Dutchess. And I saw the sign, one of the brochures, Walkway Over the Hudson. I said, God, what a beautiful sound to it. Rail trail over the Hudson River. And I said, I know all the rail trails in this area. How did I miss this one? So I called the phone number up at the bottom of it, figuring I'd get an answer machine. And then there was a voice, Bill Seppi. And I started asking a lot of questions. Well, if you're so serious about it, come up this Saturday to Pine Plains Firehouse. We're having a fundraiser, and I'm selling books and shirts. And from that moment on, I was hooked.
Have you ever been up to get a view up there?
Was I ever up on the bridge?
Or up around the bridge to get views from around there?
No.
No. Okay. What's one of the best features of the Hudson Valley?
I'm going to be biased. I mean, once we get this bridge open, I think the bridge is going to be a worldwide tourist attraction. I mean, think about it. When it opened up in 1888, it was the world's longest bridge. It will be a great asset to the Hudson Valley region because when we hopefully get it open by 2009 or thereafter, it will be the world's longest pedestrian dedicated bridge.
And can you tell me what impact you think the bridge is going to make in the Hudson Valley, perhaps from an economic standpoint?
The impact, I believe, will definitely create jobs. We create businesses, tax revenue, the tourism that will come up from both sides of the river, from New Jersey, from New York City. I mean, think about it. The train station is a block and a half from the waterfront. Ideally, if we ever get an elevator up from the waterfront to the bridge deck, it can't be any easier than that. Even the elevator would be a tourist attraction. You know, 220 feet high to get up to the bridge deck. So it would just be a magnet for people to come up here.
What sort of activities have Walkway Over the Hudson been engaging in to raise public awareness?
Walkways been trying to, the last number of years, to gain public awareness through community outreach events, whether it's the Kids Expo at the Poughkeepsie Civic Center, whether it's the Arlington Street Fair, the Highland Rib Festival, or the Highland Chili Festival in January. Beacons has about 5 events every year. Clearwater has their big festival every June. It's a 2-3 day event, which is, you know, a wonderful thing. And wherever we go, we feel that we could reach a broader audience.
How do you feel the bridges or the Walkway Across the Hudson can work with the quadrennial celebration to get this job done?
I think the bridge, in regard to the quadricentennial for 2009, can make a major impact to it. Because if you have a history of the 1909 celebration, which was just Hudson, Fulton, somebody was smart this time around and included Champlain, so you have Hudson, Fulton, Champlain. Back then, you had Thomas Edison had the ability to light streetlights in New York City. The Wright brothers were flying up and down the Hudson River. It was just a lot of wonderful things going on. There's really not that many things that they could take advantage of this time around. So here you have a bridge that was built in the 19th century, and now we're refurbishing in the 21st century, and it could last even beyond that. And so it's like a link to tie into history, that you have the link of Hudson, Fulton, Champlain.
Mm-hmm. What do you find most interesting about the bridge from a personal standpoint?
Obviously, I find the size of the bridge just overwhelming. The length of it, the height from the river, the views. But what gets to me is that I do a public access TV show, so I had the ability to take a boat ride with the engineers when they were inspecting the piers last year to film some of that vantage point. But to circle around the piers and to look at the work, it was just, to me, the men that built the bridge, whether it was the engineers or the workers, the carpenters, the iron workers, that I have just overwhelming respect for.
In inspecting the bridge and getting a close look at it, what would you say, in your opinion, is the current condition of the bridge?
Considering that this year's 2008, the condition of the bridge is remarkable because it's opened 120 years ago. They actually started on the bridge, I believe, in 1873 on the piers. It's just an incredible structure. The material they used, the labor that was used, I mean, it's lasted the test of time.
And would you say, well, tell me about your public access program.
Well, my public access program, I got involved with that, just paying my bill one day online and standing around, I saw the sign, would you like to do public access? So I said, well, we're trying to promote walkways some fashion, let me try it, see what it is. So they gave me an application, I sent it down, I got the response back, yes. So I had to take a 3-week course on how to do editing, you know, lights and cameras or whatever. So I went to our office, got the old archives out, and I started to splice together, edit together previous shows. Also, Fred Schaefer, our chair, was doing the tour one weekend, and I used part of that material as well. So obviously I got better in time with each show, and more things were starting to happen for Walkway, and current events-wise, and I was able to use that as well.
Can you describe what the difference in terms of how the process of Walkway getting this job done is from when you started to now? What are some of the big things that have happened? How has the process gotten easier? Has it gotten harder?
The process of Walkway, this progression, when I got involved, I was just started out as a volunteer, and I would help out mow the lawns, whatever it was up on the bridge. But then there was a changeover in the board in 2004. A new board of directors came in, led by Fred Schaefer and some leftover board members from the previous administration. I sat around, watched them for a little bit, and then I said, you know, I wasn't happy with their production again. So I said, I'd like to get on the board, and I wanted to see what I could do. And at this point in time, I did everything I could. Where I live in Westchester County, I promoted it down there as well. Wherever I went, I would talk about it, talk to people, and apply for grants, talk to contacts, whatever we could get. And a few times it worked.
Can you tell me some of the people beyond just Walkway Over the Hudson that seem to be getting involved or that you've been raising attention to and have been active in this?
Other people that haven't been, repeat that again, please?
Can you tell me describe some of the other people or that have been involved in the Walkway Over the Hudson, or people maybe outside Walkway Over the Hudson are taking an active role in getting involved?
Other board members, in their own way, have been helpful to the organization. Not everybody could be a promoter and a salesman outside. There were people that could take care of the treasury, some people could take care of the newsletter, some people could take care of the website. They're comfortable in their areas. Remember, it's all a volunteer-based organization. The greatest help for the organization has been, I would say, the Dyson Foundation. Rob Dyson, with the help of Diana Guerriero, stepped up back over July of '07, and it has transformed this project, from just a struggling not-for-profit that we all shared all these booths with and other groups and these events that we go to possibly that we could realize our dream.
Do you think that could you describe some of the frustrations perhaps that have come along with Walkway Over the Hudson?
The frustrations, again, it was the lack of activity to get people moving and involved, to try and get the money or the awareness to bring it to the point where we're at now. So there was just certain people that were constantly trying to keep plugging away at that. Now the only frustration is the possibility. It's a very complicated situation what we're involved in, but we're frustrated that we just hope that we can get this open by the celebration 2009, because again, we need that incredible cooperation between all those many agencies that are involved.
What sort of work needs to be done on the bridge to get it done?
The work that has to be done on the bridge to have it ready for that celebration and for future use would have to be obviously the old rails and ties and walkways that are still on the bridge. What's still on the bridge is from the Highland side in Ulster County, across the bridge, over the river to the Poughkeepsie shoreline. That's still intact. It's not in great shape, but it's still there. From the Poughkeepsie shoreline in, everything was removed because there was a fire at about 700 feet of the bridge back in 1974. So that's already been stripped.
From a local political standpoint, how has the idea of opening the bridge been received by, say, town of Poughkeepsie, town of Lloyd, and maybe even New York State?
In regard to support, local, regional, and national, I could tell you firsthand because I worked on a grant back in June with Dick Collar, board member, and his wife Noreen Collar. And in the 3 grants we worked on, we were asked to get letters of support. And I just kind of figured out certain people who I should contact. And next thing you know, it started to steamroll, and before you know it, I have 40 letters of support that we put it together in the book. And it was just from Senator Schumer, Clinton, right down the line, from the local state senators, assemblymen, the mayors, the town supervisors, Scenic Hudson, Clearwater, the Riverkeeper, Hudson River Navigator, on, just all ringing endorsements, Rails to Trails. So it was a very, very good book, and I'm proud to say that when I look at the final draft designs, it's included in that, and it was well worth the effort.
Great. Can you describe the response by the local business community to the bridge and opening up the bridge?
The local business community is led by, in the Chamber of Commerce, is Charlie North. Charlie North also happens to be on the board of directors. They're very enthusiastic about it now. They're obviously cautiously optimistic, like a lot of people are, because it's been talked about for a long time. But I think they're very, very confident now, like a lot of people are, because both, the Dyson Foundation is involved, Governor Spitzer, basically endorsed us in the state message back in January, so we're pretty much on our way.
Can you speculate perhaps in ways in which the business community will be benefited by having this bridge connected, or this bridge opened up?
Again, it's a big draw. It's going to be tourism. The restaurants, the hotels, the coffee shops, whatever, the gas stations. You already have draws up here already, FDR, the Culinary Institute. On this side of the river, West Point, a little bit lower on the other side of the river. So it just gives people another reason, either come up from the city and down that area, or people to come down from upstate. It's a beautiful location because the bridge originally was built for that reason, to be halfway between New York City and Albany. So you can draw people down from upstate as well.
What sort of safety concerns might go into having a bridge opened like this?
The typical safety concerns are, what people are concerned about is suicides situations. That's something we're going to have to deal with. Everything has to be done legally in certain heights of the railings, certain spaces of the balusters. It's just going to be like any other bridge that's on the Hudson River. I believe they're also going to put up call boxes, and keep in mind, it's going to be a lot of people out there. So I'm sure if somebody does get a little out of hand, there will be some people to try and stop it.
Can you describe any events that have been talked about perhaps in Walkway Over the Hudson meetings to coincide with the quadrennial celebration?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of, I heard is some sort of parade tied in the communities with children, which is a great idea, and costumes and stuff like that. Again, that was talked about a year or two ago, and it's a fabulous idea. But I think that the way it would work out would be all the communities would start their little celebrations, and then it would climax on the bridge the day we have the big celebration. Now the fact that we look like it's going to happen, I'm sure they're really going to get serious about that.
And
Can I add something to that?
sure.
Because this summer, August of 2008, will be the bridge's 120th anniversary of the construction of the bridge. So with the help of Chris Silver from the Bardavon Theater, we're going to be part of his celebration that he has, the Hudson River Arts Festival, in the third week of September. So he's going to allow us to be a part of that to promote the bridge
Great.
and celebrate the bridge.
Can you talk about also some other ways in which Walkway Over the Hudson is planning for maybe working with local communities in putting together celebrations?
Again, I'm not up to all those details about how Walkway will be involved in those celebrations. I know there are meetings going on between Ulster County Tourism, Dutchess County Tourism. The city of Poughkeepsie is very, very involved in this. So it's just a matter that, again, it's serious now. People could really actually get down with the nitty-gritty and plan events.
What is the bridge, on a personal level, what does it mean to you? How do you envision you and perhaps maybe your family using the bridge if it gets completed?
What's the bridge mean to me and to my family? To me, how I got involved in it, it was a no-brainer, because it was just sitting there for years doing absolutely nothing when something could have been done to it. I mean, when Bill Seppi got involved in it, the Rails to Trails program wasn't that popular and big yet. So like everything in life, it's a matter of timing. So at this point in time, Rails to Trails is very popular. People are trying to exercise more. I just thought it was just an honor and a privilege to be a part of something like this. Down where I live in Westchester County, there's the old Putnam line, which is part of the New York Central line. That was abandoned. But they took all the right-of-ways and they created the trail system that's called the North and South County Trailway, which leads up to Putnam County. So to me, when I saw this opportunity, I said I can actually get involved on the ground floor level to help something out, since I was retired from my job. And like I said, it involved the Forgotten Railroad history, it involved the Rails to Trail projects, and it involved the Hudson River. So to me, it was a trifecta.
Right. Can you describe your own personal role to Walkway of the Hudson? What do you do with the organization? What's your role within it?
My role in the organization is first a board member. Secondly, I'm involved in the community outreach committee. I'm involved with the oversight committee. And anything else that basically when people need help, pretty much I'll lend them a hand.
Have you seen any change in activity regarding the bridge since Governor Spitzer's announcement that the bridge will be declared a state park? Do you think that's a working solution?
Well, the first change I saw was the fact that the same day the governor gave his speech, there was a public information meeting at the Grand Hotel. And the original estimates were confirmed reservations of 120 to 125 people. When we got there that night, there was 500 people there. So apparently a lot of other people saw the speech as well. So it really, really is gathering a lot of interest and momentum. And a lot of the old members of the organization that had left were there. And it was good to see those old faces, and they were all excited. Because that's all everybody really wants. You know, whatever the reasons were, how to raise the money to get the job done, we all wanted to be able to walk across that bridge.
How do you envision the Walkway working with New York Parks on this project? Do you think it's going to be more of an all-volunteer, or do you reckon it's going to be more involved with businesses getting it done, as well as volunteers? How do you imagine that the process is actually going to come to fruition?
Our relationship with Parks in regard to the bridge would be, in all likelihood, friends of Walkway. I guess we'll be involved in events that will be held on the bridge, the upkeep of the benches when the benches are put in, flower pots, or whatever the case may be. When there's celebrations, we'll be involved in that way. So,
Do you imagine that there's going to be a cost for the average person walking across it? Do you endorse that? Do you think that might be a bad idea?
I would hope it's for free.
I hope it's for free.
Yes.
Great.
I would hope that cost, there might be a cost, instead of walking across the bridge at a charge, there might be a cost for maybe the elevator to help pay towards the elevator. And again, I hope the elevator is for free as well. I mean, the Bridge Authority might have questioned us why they want to get involved. The answer would be, bring more cars into the area that normally you wouldn't have. So you make up the money with the tolls.
Do you have any suggestions for perhaps renaming the bridge or naming the park or anything along those lines?
I would keep it Walkway Over the Hudson.
Walkway Over the Hudson?
There's no other name. I mean, that's what it's known by for so many years. I mean, try to rename something like that, it'd be sacrilegious, in my opinion.
You mentioned Pete Seeger. Can you describe his role in the bridge?
Pete Seeger's involvement with Walkway first is he's a member. And obviously, most people know who Pete Seeger is. I had a great opportunity to meet Pete Seeger last summer at the Clearwater Festival down in Croton Point Park, which is in New York State. It's a 2-day music festival and environmental advocacy festival as well. Pete Seeger happened to walk up to my table because I was there for 2 days for public outreach, and saw there was a book on the table called Bridge in the Hudson. And he just remarked, I never knew there was a book about the bridge. And I said, sure it is. He says, well, where can I get this book? And I said, it'd be an honor and a privilege on behalf of Walkway to give you this copy for what you did for the Hudson River. So, to make a long story short, I explained to him about the grant programs that we were applying for. So I asked him if he wouldn't mind writing a letter of support for us, and he came through with it. And I would think it was very, very helpful.
Can you name any other people who've really played a pivotal role in getting this done, and how they've managed to do it?
It's a tough one because I hate to insult anybody that's, if I don't mention people that were involved, that were pivotal to the success of Walkway. I mean, it's not totally successful yet. And we have to start off with the original members of Walkway back in 1992 that saw this vision of saving this bridge because they had been talking to the community about tearing the bridge down. Those people are being honored because they all spent money on planks, because originally the idea was to put planks on the bridge. So those so-called plank holders are on a board case that we have on the Highland side of the bridge with the names on and the numbers. And there's probably 1,380 plank holders, and we definitely want to thank them. And when I run into them at community outreach events, they say, "Oh, I got plank number 66, whatever happened to my plank." And I say, "Well, we're not going to use planks, but we're definitely not going to forget you." Then the people along the way up until present, a little over 2,000, it's the new board of directors have been very, very instrumental to, steady the ship, keep it going, and hopefully just, keep plugging away is what we did. Fred Schaefer's been outstanding. He's all over the place doing presentations, tours on the bridge. Dick Collins, the nitty-gritty historian for the bridge. He's taking care of everything in regard to the engineers that are on the bridge now. When they need something, the Dyson Foundation needs something, he's at their beck and call. And he's just, contractor needs to go out on the bridge, he's over there already, let them in on the property. So there's just a few people, in fairness to the other people, a lot of other people have full-time jobs. So they just do what they can do when they can do it. And of course, again, the key factor is the Dyson Foundation that just legitimized us beyond belief. So now they truly believe in this project, and they've always been good to the Hudson Valley, from what I understand. So this is, I guess, a chance for them to really make a huge statement, and that how important the Hudson Valley is to them.
Can you describe the Dyson Foundation's role?
Dyson Foundation's role is, first they allocated $1.5 million to pay for our engineering inspection. We had an inspection on the piers last year that we were able to raise money through Governor Pataki before he left office. He gave us $155,000, which was allocated to New York State Parks. That got us to the point to have the underwater inspection piers, which was outside of some maintenance issues. They were in great shape. Now, once the Dyson Foundation got involved, they paid for the inspection of the steelwork, the design plans, and all the maintenance and land clearing that was needed, the surveys, title insurance. They've been just phenomenal.
How do you envision Walkway playing a role if this bridge gets completed, if the construction gets opened? Will Walkway continue to play a role, and in what way will they?
Walkway's role at the completion of the renovations or reconstruction of the bridge, I would say, again, it would be in the Friends category. It's going to be a new territory for all of us. We just don't know the definition of what Parks wants us to do yet. I mean, they're so involved now in just trying to get this bridge open. That's something we're going to have to worry about later on.
How would you describe Parks' enthusiasm or participation? Have you been contacting with, and how have they been filling their role?
Well, in Parks' involvement, I had the first opportunity with a fellow board member by the name of Mitch Marquet to go up and meet Carol Ash, who's the New York State Parks Commissioner, about a year ago, early March of '07. It must have been maybe 3-4 weeks after she was appointed to the job. One of the former board members was able to set that meeting up. I really didn't know much about Carol Ash, but I found out more about her later. She was involved with the Nature Conservancy. She was involved with the Palisades Park Commission. She's from the area. So we were allowed to make our presentation. And finally, at one point, her hands come up, "Stop. You don't have to sell the bridge. I love the bridge." And she said, "We just don't have the money. The parks system wants the bridge because we want to tie in a rural area with an urban area. Somehow we have to raise the money, and you're not going anywhere. You're going to be friends of Walkway." So Parks and Deputy Commissioner Eric Kluwer said have been very, very helpful, enthusiastic about this because, I think all the people involved, the engineers that were involved, Parks Department people, this is an exciting, once-in-a-lifetime job that they could work on, and this would be something for them to put on their resume.
Overall, it sounds like you're describing a lot of enthusiasm from both the community, from parks, all the way up to Spitzer's. Has there been any negative feedback on it, or who maybe are not so enthusiastic about opening up at the bridge?
The negativity or feedback from so-called naysayers are that the whatever government involvement is, that's money could be used elsewhere, whether it's highways, age research, homeless, whatever. This is an economic development tool, which will benefit everybody in the long run anyway. It's not a complete handout, okay? So you're always going to get that, and you're not going to convince everybody. You convince the majority as usual, and if they want to get this done, it's going to happen.
In talking to a lot of the community members, have you come across interesting stories or anecdotes or things that people have said that the bridge has meant personally to them?
In regard to personal anecdotes from people I met in the community, I've been privileged again being involved in the community outreach. The stories you hear people, especially that lived in Poughkeepsie or people that lived in Highland. One lady came up to me and she said, I was a young little girl around World War II, and the military trains used to come across the bridge. And she said, you know it was a military train because they used to paint the windows. And I was standing there, I guess it was Tomorrow Street or whatever it was over there at Delafield, and all of a sudden this paper was coming out of the train and come flickering down, and it was a letter. And on that letter it said, could you please mail this for me? So these were the GIs that were going to Europe, wanting, I guess, their family or their girlfriends or whatever to get these letters before they left. Another story that really stood out in my mind was a guy that lived in Poughkeepsie who had a job in Highland, and he was late to work one day, so a freight train's coming by on the line going over the bridge. Now the trains used to have to go 10, 12 miles an hour over the bridge, the locomotives. But once they got to the other side, they could start to speed up again. This guy didn't realize that, so he jumps on the back of the train, figuring that he could easily jump off when he gets to the other side. Except by the time he got to the other side, they were doing about 40 miles an hour. So he dove off the bridge because he didn't know how much further he was going to go, and by the time he got to work, everything was shredded on him, his clothes. So these are the type of stories that, you get.
Can you envision the bridge being used maybe as education tools, or have you gotten a response from the local education community, schools and such, in showing their enthusiasm?
The bridge being used as an educational tool, probably in various ways. First and foremost, we want to build our own museum somewhere underneath the bridge because we own a lot of property under the bridge, preferably on the Poughkeepsie side, not far from the Children's Museum. Mid-Hudson Children's Museum's been very enthusiastic about this as well. They let us use their pavilion for our meetings and stuff like that, and they also want to work together with us because, like all nonprofits, we all struggle. So again, if the bridge gets open, brings people up, people will discover the museum, and hopefully they'll get bigger and more populated. The local schools, we had a great contest about 3 years ago. Dutchess Community College put together this design contest. 11th grade high school students from Dutchess County and Ulster County that had a possibility of becoming engineers or architects were invited to participate, so it ended up being 25 students. Each group of 5 was assigned an architect for the day. They were given the instructions to make a museum and access to the bridge deck from the waterfront. And each went to their own classrooms, and they came back that was 8 o'clock in the morning, they came back about 5 in the afternoon, and all 5 groups have great ideas on, and one kid even had like a Ferris wheel type of device, so people can get off and on. I mean, it wouldn't work because of the historical nature of the bridge, but it was, it was great that they were involved.
Seems like the kids are really excited. Is there anything else you'd like to say in regards to the bridge and the walkway's involvement?
What I'd like to say, what I haven't said. Again, it's been an honor and a privilege to be a part of something like this, to see something that was said to me that it's not going to happen, no way. And it was close, and close to it. But, and also be able to meet people such as Pete Seeger, Governor Spitzer, former Governor Pataki, Senator Schumer, all these different people, and just to talk about something that obviously they could see enthusiasm was coming out of me and passion. I just thought it was necessary that it should get done. I was going to do the best of my abilities at what I could do. And I hope to stay involved with Walkway, and I believe the friends of Walkway will be there long after the celebration in 2009.
Great, great. I don't really have any more questions for you. I think we're all done.